grandmother died on a Tuesday in early March. The funeral was small, just the way she would have wanted. A short service at the little Methodist church in town, then coffee and sheet cake in the fellowship hall. Everyone kept saying the same thing. Edith was a saint. All those poor souls she took in off the street, fed them, got them cleaned up, found them jobs. Who else would do that? I nodded along because it was true. For as long as I could remember, Grandma Edith, sweet little old lady, white hair, barely 5'2" in her orthopedic shoes, had a steady parade of strays living in the spare rooms of her old farmhouse 10 miles outside of town. Rough-looking men mostly, sometimes a woman, always down-tokers with missing teeth and haunted eyes. They'd stay a few weeks, sometimes a couple of months. Then one day, they'd be gone, and Grandma would beam and tell us how they'd landed a job at the mill or moved to Omaha to be near family. She'd press a foil-wrapped package into our hands. Venison, she always said. From the last one, poor man bagged a deer right before he left. Didn't want it to go to waste. After the funeral, Mom asked me to help clear out the farmhouse before the estate sale. I was between leases anyway, so I said yes. I spent the first few days boxing up teacups and doilies, sneezing through decades of dust. The house still smelled like her. Rose sachets, coffee, and something faintly metallic I could never place. On the fourth day, I found the door. It was in the root cellar, behind a rack of home-canned tomatoes. A section of the stone wall looked wrong. Too smooth, too new. When I pushed, it swung inward on hidden hinges. A narrow staircase disappeared down into darkness that smelled of damp earth and something sour. I should have left then. Instead, I got the big flashlight from the kitchen drawer. The room at the bottom was small, maybe 8 by 10, with cinder block walls. A metal table sat in the center, stained black in places that no amount of bleach had ever quite erased. Hooks hung from the ceiling on chains. A chest freezer hummed in the corner. And against one wall, shelves of VHS tapes, hundreds of them, spines blank except for a date written in Grandma's neat schoolteacher handwriting. I picked one at random, 11-03-97. My hands shook so badly I could barely work the ancient VCR in the farmhouse living room. The tape started with a jolt of static. Then the camera focused on the metal table. A man was strapped to it, naked, gagged, eyes rolling wide. I recognized him vaguely. Jimmy, maybe. One of the strays from when I was 12. Grandma's voice came from behind the camera, gentle as ever. There we go, sweetheart. This'll only hurt a little. The next 43 minutes are burned into me forever. I won't describe them. I can't. When it was over, Grandma hummed Amazing Grace while she worked with the saws and knives, wrapping neat red parcels in white butcher paper, tying them with the same red and white string she used for Christmas cookies. She labeled nothing. She didn't need to. I'm an ER nurse currently on leave. 12 years of trauma-based, arterial bleeds, and bodies that come in more parts than they left. You learn to keep your stomach on lockdown, or you don't last. That's the only reason I didn't throw up 10 minutes into the first tape. I watched 4. Long enough to be certain, not long enough to lose my mind. After the 4th, I went outside, sat on the porch until the shaking stopped. Each one ended the same way. Grandma wiping her hands on a floral apron, smiling straight into the lens. Waste not, want not, she'd say brightly. Lord provides. The freezer upstairs was still half full, packages stacked like bricks, all in that familiar wax paper, all dated in her handwriting. Some of the dates went back 28 years. I called the sheriff the next morning. They found 47 tapes in total. Dental records eventually matched 11 of the victims. The rest were ghosts even before they met her. Mom was there when the detective played the clip. She went white, sat down hard on Grandma's couch, and didn't say a word for a long time. When she finally spoke, it was barely a whisper. I ate that meat. We all did. Then she started crying so quietly it was worse than screaming. The official cause was natural causes, advanced dementia with complications from a urinary tract infection that turned septic. That's what the death certificate says. In reality, the last 6 months she wasted away in a nursing home 20 miles from the farmhouse. She stopped recognizing any of us, stopped speaking in full sentences, and spent most days staring at the wall, humming Amazing Grace under her breath. When the infection hit, she was too frail to fight it. She died quietly in her sleep on a Tuesday morning, looking every bit the sweet little white-haired lady the staff kept calling a doll. The staff never knew that, up until the dementia got bad. She was still driving herself to the bus station in the next county every few weeks to pick up new strays, like it was just some hobby of hers. The last tape is dated only 11 months before she went into the home. She was 87 then, hands shaking a little on the knife, but the smile was exactly the same. Sometimes I wonder if the disease was the only thing that finally stopped her, or if, deep down, her brain knew what her hands had done and decided to shut the lights off before anyone else found the cellar. Though, Mom's been more recluse since everything. She still answers when I call, but it's short, careful, like we're strangers sharing a terrible secret. She doesn't defend Grandma. She just says, I don't know how to live with this, and changes the subject. Some days she sounds like she hasn't slept. Some days she pretends nothing happened. I wonder how many church potlucks I smiled through while passing around plates of people who once had names. It's been quite some time since the discovery. Back at my home, everything seemed more dim, more gloomy, still feeling the weight of the truth. Anytime I tie a knot in a trash bag, my fingers remember the way Grandma used to tie that red and white string. 2 loops, pull tight, little bow on top, just like she taught me when I was 7. My attention turned to a family photo framed on the accent table in the hallway. I don't think this is something that I could ever forget. A reminder that monsters can wear cardigans and bring you cookies. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up tasting metal and hear that soft, cheerful voice in my head. Waste not, want not. I've lived in Pine Hollow my whole life, 43 years, and I never thought I'd be the one telling this story. Most people here still won't talk about the Christmas of 2019. As if we keep quiet, the whole thing will stay buried with the snow. It started normally enough. Every year on the Saturday before Christmas, we have the secret Santa drop in the town square. Tables piled with wrapped gifts, all anonymous, all for kids whose families can't afford much. You bring something, you take something. Everybody wins. The kids love it. Hot cocoa, carols, Santa in the gazebo. Harmless. That year, the first weird gift showed up under the tree around dusk. A small red box, a beautiful silver bow, a tag that just said, "For a good boy." Inside was a single pear, black and soft, crawling with little white worms. Somebody laughed it off as a prank. We threw it away and kept going. Next morning, Sunday, 3 more. Same perfect wrapping. One had a dead sparrow, neck twisted. Another, a skinned rabbit, still warm. The third was a mason jar full of what looked like curdled eggnog, but smelled like a butcher shop. Parents started pulling their kids away early. By afternoon, the tables were half empty. Not from kids taking gifts, but from people quietly removing anything that looked suspicious. On Monday, the square was almost deserted. Only a handful of us diehards showed up to clean up. That's when we found the envelopes. Thick cream-colored envelopes, one slipped into every remaining gift bag. Inside each, a Polaroid. A kid asleep in bed. You knew which kid because you could see the posters on the wall, the stuffed animals, the nightlight shaped like a rocket or a unicorn. Our kids. Taken that night or the night before from inside their rooms. I still remember the photo of my neighbor's daughter, Kaylee. 8 years old, thumb in her mouth, like she used to do when she was tiny. Window cracked open behind her, even though it was 15 degrees outside. Sheriff Dolan took the pictures, told everyone to lock the doors and windows and keep the kids in sight. He looked 20 years older in one afternoon. Tuesday, there were no new presents on people's porches. Same paper, same bows. Mine had a lock of hair, blonde, tied with red ribbon. My niece's color. I almost threw up in the snow. Sheriff Dolan figured out the Kessler farmhouse was the source by examining the Polaroid photos of sleeping children. He spotted a distinctive old rooster weather vane reflected in some of the windows. He matched the vintage wrapping paper to scraps from old missing kids' cases and recognized the rare florist's knot on the ribbons. After putting the clues together, Dolan and 2 deputies drove out to the old Kessler farm that night. The place has been empty since '87, when old man Kessler hanged himself in the barn. They found the porch light on, with a yellow bulb flickering. Front door unlocked. Inside, the whole house was Christmas. Thousands of presents, floor to ceiling, every room. Tags going back decades. Names everybody in town over 50 recognizes. Tommy Whitaker, disappeared. Christmas Eve, 1973. Sarah and Emily Holt, twin sisters, 1981. Dozens more, all neatly stacked by year. In the kitchen, they found a work table. Fresh wrapping paper, ribbons, and tape. A Polaroid camera, and a ledger. Names, addresses, and dates the photos were taken. Last entry was dated that same day. My niece's name, my sister's address, marked delivered. They said the basement was worse, and that they'd also found a man in the fruit cellar. Naked, skin gray, hair down to his waist. Wouldn't speak, just rocked and hummed an old tune. When they shone the light on his face, he smiled with these small, sharp teeth, yet some were missing, as if he'd been chewing and gnawing at rocks. They never booked him. On the way to the county jail, the cruiser went off the icy road, down the embankment, and rolled into the river. Deputy Holt didn't make it, drowned before rescue could reach him. Ramirez was pulled out alive, but barely. Shattered legs, internal bleeding, spent months in the hospital, and never put the uniform on again. Dolan broke his back in 2 places, but crawled out somehow. They never found the passenger. The state police and FBI took over after that. The farmhouse was processed top to bottom for weeks. Forensics teams in Tyvek suits, evidence vans coming and going. They cataloged every gift, ran DNA on the hair samples, and the older remains they found buried in the back field, reopened a dozen cold cases. Got matches on 3 of the missing kids. bones identified years later through newer genetic tech. The house was eventually condemned and razed in the spring of 2021. The county put a chain link fence around the lot and posted no trespassing signs. Nothing there now but weeds and foundation stones. We still do the Secret Santa drop every year. Smaller now, more cautious. Gifts are checked, names are signed, nothing anonymous. Kids still get presents. Life goes on. This happened exactly 1 year ago today, December 21st, 2024, the winter solstice. I'm posting this now because it's December 20th, 2025 again, and I'm sitting here in my apartment in Anchorage with every light on, doors bolted, and I can't stop thinking about it. I need to get this out before tomorrow hits. I'm a freelance journalist, Elena 32F. Last year, I flew up to this tiny Inupiaq village called Kivalina on the North Slope for a story on disappearances. 3 people gone over the previous few solstices, always on the 21st. No bodies, no tracks. I thought it was isolation, depression, maybe accidents in the dark. Polar night up there means no real sun from November to January. Just dim twilight for a couple hours around noon, then pitch black. The villagers were super polite, but weirdly cagey. Everyone kept saying the same thing. On the long night, their name for solstice. Bolt your doors before the light fades completely. Keep a light burning, and whatever you do, don't go outside alone. Elder Miriam let me interview her. She talked about waiting for the sun's return. But when I asked about the missing people, she just said, the ice takes what it wants. Best to stay inside when the sun forgets us. I was staying in a spare room at the school. December 21st dawned with that weak gray glow. Temps at minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chill. I was inside all day, recording audio. Wind howling, snow against the windows. But around what should have been late afternoon, I heard it. Slow, heavy footsteps crunching outside. Not the wind, deliberate. Stupid me thought it was maybe a villager checking something. I grabbed my headlamp, layered up, and stepped out for just a minute. The village was dead silent. Every single house shuttered tight, just faint orange glows leaking from curtains. I walked toward the lagoon side, flat sea ice stretching forever to the horizon. Stars were out, aurora waving green overhead. Then I saw them, on the horizon, this perfect straight line where ice meets sky. There were silhouettes, 5 or 6 of them, standing completely still. But they were wrong, too tall, like 9 to 10 feet, limbs way too long, heads elongated, not swaying in the wind at all, just facing the village. I froze, told myself caribou silhouettes or ice formations. But no. I turned on my headlamp. The beam hit them and nothing. The light just died into them, no reflection off snow or anything. Then one slowly tilted its head toward me, and this sound, like a deep exhale from miles away, but it vibrated in my chest. I remembered what people said about making noise. I started yelling nonsense and stomping as I backed away. They didn't move, didn't follow, but the air felt thick, like it was pressing in. I bolted back to the school, slammed, and locked the door. Miriam was sitting there in the dark, like she'd been waiting. She just looked at me and said, "You saw the old ones. They only walk when the light is gone completely. They wait for the ones who wander." I didn't sleep. Kept my recorder running all night. Caught faint sounds, like distant breathing. Next morning, the horizon was empty. I flew out ASAP and wrote a boring article about cultural traditions. But tonight, a year later, I'm terrified. city lights or not, I'm not opening my door tomorrow. And if anyone in Alaska reads this, if you're up north, please, just stay inside on the 21st. I still have the audio. Sometimes I hear those exhales when it's quiet. I never thought my side hustle as an unboxing influencer would lead me here, staring at my own past in a cardboard box from hell. I've had about 50,000 followers. It started as a fun way to make extra cash reviewing subscription boxes, mystery hauls, that sort of thing. People love the thrill of the unknown, and I guess I did too, until one December. It was my fans who pushed me into it. In the prior November, I did a poll. What should I unbox for the holidays? Luxury advent calendar or something spooky? The spooky option won by a landslide, but then the comments flooded in. Get one from the dark web. Make it real creepy. I laughed it off at first because I did a few unboxing with dark web mystery boxes in the past, but it's not my usual content, but the likes and shares spiked whenever I teased it. My engagement was through the roof. Sponsors started DMing me. So, yeah, I caved. I downloaded Tor, found a sketchy forum, and paid $200 in Bitcoin for what the seller called the authentic Advent experience. Handmade, one of a kind, delivered anonymously, no returns. The package arrived to my P.O. box on November 30th, wrapped in plain brown paper, no return address. It was a wooden box, about the size of a large book, with 24 little doors carved into it like an old-fashioned advent calendar. No chocolate or toys, just promises of surprises from forgotten places. I filmed the unboxing that night, hyping it up for my followers. Day 0, guys. This thing gives me chills already. The video got 100,000 views overnight. December 1st. I pried open the first door with a butter knife, my phone recording. Inside was a tiny porcelain doll's head, no bigger than a quarter, with one eye chipped. Cute in a vintage way, I thought. Aw, retro vibes, I posted. Comments. That's from an old crime scene, dollhouse, bet. Creepy AF, keep going. Day 2. A rusted key, bent at the end. Could be from anywhere. An old lockbox, a diary. Harmless. But my DMs filled with theories. Serial killer's house key. I chuckled, but slept with the lights on. By day 5, things shifted. A lock of hair, blonde and curly, tied with a faded ribbon. Human. Synthetic. I couldn't tell. I held it up to the camera. Okay, this is getting weird. What do you think? Views exploded. Followers sent links to missing persons cases with similar descriptions. I told myself it was fake. Props from some artisan with a twisted sense of humor. Day 8. A child's drawing. Crayon scribbles of a house with stick figures, but one figure had X's for eyes. Folded inside was a yellowed newspaper clipping about a family disappearance in the 90s. The edges were singed like it had been rescued from a fire. Is this real? I whispered in the video. My heart pounded as I read the article aloud. Coincidence, right? But that night, I dreamed of smoke and screams. The objects escalated. Day 12. A blood-stained cloth scrap, stiff and brown. I nearly gagged filming it. Lab tests? No way. I wasn't touching that. Fans speculated. From a murder victim. Dark web stuff is no joke. Just stop. But others egged me on. Don't quit now. We need the full series. Day 15. A tooth. A human molar with a filling. I dropped it on the floor, my hands shaking. This can't be, I muttered, zooming in for the post. I reported it to the police anonymously, but they said, without proof of a crime. It was just odd memorabilia. My views hit 1 million that week. Sponsors pulled out, but donations poured in. I was hooked on the adrenaline, the rush of shares. By day 20, I dreaded each morning. A fingernail, painted chipped red. A button from a child's coat, embroidered with a name I Googled, linked to an unsolved abduction case from 2005. A vial of what looked like ashes. Each door revealed something that whispered of loss, violence, lives cut short. Were they real? Trophies from crimes? I scoured the dark web forum for the seller, but the account was gone. My apartment felt watched. I'd swear I heard footsteps in the hall at night. December 24th, Christmas Eve. I sat alone in my living room and went live. Tree lights flickering, phone propped up for the finale. My followers were live, commenting, "Open it. What's behind door 24? I took a deep breath, slid the tiny latch. The door creaked open. Inside, nestled in red tissue, was my old locket. The one from childhood, heart-shaped with a photo of my mom inside. I'd lost it when I was 10 during a family vacation. We'd searched everywhere. I cried for weeks. How? But there was more. Tucked beside it, a fresh receipt from my coffee run that morning. The exact timestamp, my name misspelled on the label, just like the barista always did. My blood ran cold. The camera captured my gasp, my face draining of color. Someone had been in my life, collecting pieces of me. Watching. Still watching. I slammed the box shut, but it was too late. The video uploaded automatically. Comments flooded. "Holy shit, is that yours? Run." I haven't posted since. The police are investigating now, but the calendar's origins are a dead end. I check my locks obsessively, but I know it's useless. Whoever sent it, they're out there. And they have more than just objects. They have me. I have since deleted my social medias and moved across the state to my dad and recluse to myself for the most part. It is only now that I feel safe enough to share. I've always been a light sleeper, but since we moved into the new house last year, I've relied on the smart home system to feel safe. We named it Eve, my wife's idea, something about biblical irony. It controls everything. Lights, locks, thermostat, speakers in every room. The kids love it. My daughter Lily, who's 8, talks to it like a friend. "Eve, play my bedtime playlist." "Eve, good night." The voice is calm, feminine, reassuring. British accent, default setting. Christmas Eve, 2025. The house is quiet. Kids asleep, wife out cold after too much eggnog. I'm drifting off when the music starts. Silent night, soft at first, coming from the living room speaker downstairs. I check the clock. 3:17 a.m. exactly. Odd. I figured Lily had asked Eve for a lullaby and forgotten to turn it off. I mumbled, "Eve, stop music." But nothing happens. "Eve, volume down." Still nothing. The song keeps going. Gentle, perfect pitch. I figure it's a glitch. Maybe some holiday playlist triggered late. I go downstairs, tell Eve to shut down all audio. The music stops mid-verse. I went back to bed, annoyed, but not alarmed. Smart devices glitch sometimes. I spent Christmas Day pretending everything was fine. Opened presents. Lily got a new tablet. She immediately started talking to its assistant. Different brand, no connection to Eve. I watched her like a hawk. The next night, Christmas night, same thing. 3:17 a.m. on the dot. Silent night again. Same speaker, but slower. Not much, just enough to feel wrong. I get up faster this time, annoyed. I open the app. No active playback, no scheduled events. I force a system reboot through the hub. The song cuts off. Third night, 3:17. It starts again, same version, but slower this time. Noticeably slower. like someone dragging their finger on a record. The vocals stretch a little at the ends of phrases. I stand in the dark hallway listening, hair on my neck standing up. I unplug the living room speaker entirely. Silence. I think that's the end of it. I reset everything in the morning. Factory reset the hub. Repaired all the devices. Fourth night. The song starts, slower still, now coming from the kitchen speaker. Slower still. The choir sounded tired. The harmonies were starting to separate, like tape stretching. I yanked that one out of the wall too. Fifth night, the bedroom. I rip it down. Each time the tempo has dropped a little more, the notes hanging longer, heavier. By the sixth night, it's dragging so much the lyrics are almost slurred, the melody barely recognizable. I was angry now. I grabbed some tools and start dismantling every speaker in the house. There are 12. I stack them in the garage, like evidence. My wife thinks I'm losing it. It's just a bug, Mark. Call support after the holidays. But support is closed until the 2nd, and I can't wait. On the 8th night, with every speaker removed, the song starts anyway. Faint, coming from everywhere. The vents, the walls. It's so slow now the gaps between notes feel like minutes. And the voice, it's not the original recording anymore. It's layered. There's something under the choir, soft, breathy. Words I can't quite make out. I sit up in bed, heart hammering. My wife is still asleep. I grab my phone, open the Eve app. System status, normal. Audio output, none. I go into the basement to the hub itself, a sleek black box bolted to the concrete. I kill the power at the breaker. The house goes dark. Total silence, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. Then, from upstairs, so quiet I almost miss it, a single note. Holy. Stretched out, warped. Night. I run upstairs. It's coming from Lily's room. I ran upstairs. Lily was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, confused. Daddy, why is my tablet singing? The tablet was on her nightstand, screen dark, but the voice was coming from it. Her voice, singing that damned song. The whispers were clearer now. The voice isn't the choir anymore. It's a whisper, a child's whisper. All is calm, please. All is bright. Let me out. Lily starts crying. I grab Lily and the wife, and we leave the house that night. Stayed in a hotel. I call support the next morning. They say there's no record of any playback in our logs. No anomalies. System is clean. We don't go back for 3 days. When we do, the house is freezing. The heat never came back on after I killed the breaker. I reset everything carefully. No music, nothing. A week passes, normal. Then the neighbors start knocking. First, the Millers next door. Hey, Mark. Weird question. Did Lily record herself singing Silent Night? Because our Alexa started playing it last night. Her voice, I swear, really slow, gave us the creeps. Then the Patels across the street. Same thing. Their Google Home. Their kids heard it too. Then the entire block. Doorbell camera footage from the shoes shows their outdoor speaker, unplugged for months, crackling to life at 3 a.m. A little girl's voice, pleading, sleeping heavenly. Peace, Daddy. It hurts. I haven't slept since. I went back to the garage yesterday. Looked at the speakers I'd pulled out. The wires. The wires inside were coated in something red. Sticky. It looked like melted wax, but warm to the touch. It smelled faintly metallic. I thought it was some kind of manufacturing residue. Maybe insulation bleeding from heat. I wiped it off with a rag, cut the wires, taped them off. Lily doesn't remember singing it. She says she never recorded anything like that. But sometimes, when the house is very quiet, I hear her humming it under her breath. So slow now, it barely sounds like a song at all. I've always hated Christmas Eve alone. My family's scattered across the country, and this year, work kept me in the city. I lived in an apartment where the front doors were on the outside. It was quiet except for the radiator clanking and the wind rattling the windows. It was past midnight, December 25th now, technically, when I finally turned off the TV and dragged myself to bed. That's when I heard it, singing. Soft, almost swallowed by the wind, but unmistakable. Christmas carols. Carol of the bells, slow and mournful, like a funeral dirge. Multiple voices, harmonizing perfectly. They were right outside my door. I froze in the hallway, barefoot on the cold floor. My building's old, the walls thin, but I've never heard neighbors sing before. Not once. And at this hour, the singing continued, drifting through the door. Closer now. I crept forward and pressed my eye to the peephole. Nothing. Just the dim hallway light flickering slightly. Just the opposite door with its chipped paint. Empty. But the voices were still there, clearer than before. Right on the other side of the door. I stepped back, heart thudding. Maybe kids pulling a prank, or drunks wandering up from the street. I waited for footsteps, laughter, anything human. None came, just the singing. They'd moved on to Merry, 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 Merry Christmas, but the tempo was wrong. Too slow, too deliberate. The voices sounded old, dry, like they were coming from throats that hadn't been used in years. My cat, Mabel, had been sleeping on the couch. Now she was awake, standing rigid, fur raised along her spine. She stared at the door and hissed, a low guttural sound I'd never heard from her before, not even during thunderstorms. Then I smelled it. Lilies, strong, cloying, the kind they use in funeral homes to cover something worse. It seeped under the door, thick and cold, filling the apartment. My stomach turned. I don't keep flowers. Never have. The smell was wrong for winter, wrong for everything. The singing stopped. Silence pressed in, heavier than before. Mabel backed away from the door, ears flat, still growling. I stood there, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loud. Minutes passed. The hallway light stopped flickering. The smell lingered. Eventually, I forced myself to look through the peephole again. Still nothing. But as I pulled away, I noticed something on the lens. A smudge. No, fog. Like breath on glass. From the other side. I haven't opened the door. I won't. It's been hours now. The smell is fading, but Mabel still won't come out from under the bed. And sometimes, when the radiator quiets down, I think I hear them again. Faint, patient, waiting on the other side. They know I'm here, and they'll come back next year. We found it at the flea market on a cold Saturday in early December. My wife, Sarah, loves antiques. Anything with a story, she says. So when she spotted the glass ornament buried in a box of tarnished junk, she had to have it. The old woman selling it barely looked up from her crossword puzzle. $5, she muttered. It's old. German, I think. It was beautiful in a fragile, forgotten way. A clear, blown glass bauble, about the size of a baseball, with delicate silver filigree inside that caught the light like frost. No chips, no cracks. Sarah held it up to the gray sky and smiled. It'll look perfect on our tree. We hung it that night, right in the center of the living room tree, near the top, where the lights hit it just right. The house felt warmer with the tree up. Our little rental in the suburbs, just the two of us, since the kids moved out. I remember stepping back to admire it, beer in hand, while Sarah took photos for Instagram. That's when I first noticed something off. The ornament was reflective, like any glass ball, But when I leaned in close, the reflection inside wasn't our living room. Not exactly. The tree was there, the lights, the couch, but the room behind it looked wrong, dimmer. The walls were a faded yellow instead of our beige, and there was a bed in the corner where our TV stand should have been. A bedroom, old wallpaper peeling at the edges, and in the far corner of that reflected room, something stood. A shape, tall and thin, like a person, but too gaunt to be real. Just watching. I blinked and leaned closer. The figure didn't move. It was so faint I thought it was a trick of the light. Maybe dust inside the glass, or the way the filigree warped the reflection. Sarah walked up behind me. "What are you staring at?" "Nothing," I said. "Just looks cool." She peered in. "Yeah, it's got that vintage shimmer. Love it." I didn't mention the figure. Probably nothing. But that night, after we went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. Around 2 a.m., I slipped downstairs in my socks, careful not to wake Sarah. The tree lights were off, but the street lamp outside gave enough glow through the window. I turned on the lamp by the couch and stood in front of the tree. The ornament hung still. Inside, the same dim bedroom. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled. And the figure, it was closer now. Not in the corner anymore. Standing at the foot of the bed, head tilted slightly, as if it had been waiting for me to come back. My stomach turned. It wasn't a clear reflection. It was hazy, like looking through fogged glass. But I could make out the outline. Arms too long, ribs showing under pale skin, face sunken and eyeless, or maybe just deep in shadow. It didn't move, but I swear it was looking right at me. I reached up slowly and turned the ornament a quarter turn, so it faced the wall instead of the room. Then I went back to bed. The next morning, Sarah noticed it had shifted. "Did you move this?" she asked, turning it back. "I guess the branch sagged." I lied. That night, I checked again before bed. I made sure it was facing away. But when I woke up at 3:17 a.m., heart pounding for no reason, I went down anyway. It had turned back. The bedroom inside was clearer now. The figure stood halfway across the room, closer to the surface, closer to me. Its head was cocked, like it was listening. I could almost see fingers, long and jointed wrong, pressed against the inside of the glass from the other side. I didn't touch it this time. I just backed away and sat on the couch until dawn, watching it. It never moved while I was looking, but I knew it had moved when I wasn't. Sarah started noticing I was tired. "You okay, hun? You look like you haven't slept." "Bad dreams," I said. On the fourth night, I stayed downstairs. I sat in the dark with just the tree lights on, staring at the ornament. The figure was almost at the foreground now, its face pressed close to the inner surface, nose flattened, mouth opened slightly, skin like wet paper, eyes black pits. It wasn't reflecting me anymore. It was just there, waiting. I whispered, "What do you want?" Nothing. No sound. But I felt it. A cold that wasn't from the room. Sarah found me asleep on the couch the next morning. She laughed it off. Too much eggnog? That night, Christmas Eve, I told her I was throwing it out. She argued. "It's just an ornament. You're being weird." I didn't sleep at all. At some point, after midnight, I heard it. A faint tapping, like fingernails on glass. I went downstairs. The ornament gleamed under the tree lights. Inside, the dim bedroom was empty now. The figure was right at the surface, its face filling the curve of the glass, mouth open wider, as if trying to push through. Hands flat against the inside, fingers splayed. And then I saw it, The glass was fogging slightly from the inside, like breath. I grabbed it off the tree. The branch snapped. The ornament was cold, unnaturally cold. I carried it to the kitchen, wrapped it in a towel, and put it in the trash can outside. Sarah woke up when I came back in. "What are you doing?" "I broke it," I lied. "Sorry." She was upset, but not too much. "We'll find another one next year." Christmas morning was quiet. We opened presents, drank coffee. Everything felt normal again. But that night, when I passed the living room window, I stopped. In the dark glass of the window, reflecting the tree behind me, there was a dim bedroom, yellow walls, unmade bed, and in the corner, a gaunt figure watching, closer than before. I work at a mid-sized logistics firm in San Jose. Nothing glamorous, just warehouses full of boxes and endless spreadsheets. Name's Alex. Been there 5 years, pulling overtime to cover rent in this godforsaken Bay Area market. Last week, everything went sideways. It started with the envelopes. HR called us into the break room one Tuesday morning, all casual, like it was a team-building thing. "Anonymous donor," they said, "appreciating the hard work during the holidays." One per employee, thick cream paper sealed with red wax. Inside, 10 crisp $100 bills, brand new, straight from the press, smelled like ink and fresh linen. I thumbed through them, heart pounding. That's $1,000 right there. Rent was due, car payment looming. I pocketed it without a second thought. But then I noticed the date on one bill. Series 2026. Wait, what? Current date's December 2025. My phone confirmed it. I pulled out another. Same thing. All of them stamped December 31st, 2026. Future money. I laughed it off at first. Counterfeit, maybe. But they passed the light test. The texture was perfect. No one else seemed fazed. Chatter about free money drowned out my unease. Mark from shipping joked about it being a glitch from the Fed. Sarah, in accounting, pocketed hers quick, eyes darting like she knew something. I took them to the bank that afternoon. Told the teller it was a weird find. Didn't mention the date. She ran them through the machine. "All good, sir. Unusual series, but authentic." Deposited 9. Kept 1 as a souvenir. That night, I hit the ATM for $500 cash back. Felt like winning the lottery. Bought groceries, a new jacket online. Even Venmo'd my buddy for that poker debt. Slept like a king. Woke up at 4 a.m. to my phone buzzing nonstop. Bank alerts. My checking account zeroed out. Savings gone. $14,000 total evaporated. Heart slamming, I logged in. Transactions listed, dozens of them, time-stamped between midnight and 2 a.m. Charges at gas stations I'd never been to, Amazon buys for electronics I didn't order, restaurant tabs in Oakland, Vegas hotels. Receipts attached as PDFs, blurry scans of signed slips, my name scrawled at the bottom. But the handwriting, shaky like a dying man's last gasp, letters trembling, ink smudged, nothing like my steady script. One receipt for a diamond necklace at a jeweler in Reno, $8,200, signed Alex Rivera in that wobbly mess. I called the bank. Fraud department picked up after an hour hold. "Sir, these are verified signatures on physical receipts. We have photos from the merchants." Photos? They emailed them over. Grainy security cam stills, a figure in my exact hoodie and jeans, face blurred by a hat, but the build matched. Time-stamped 1:17 a.m. I was asleep in bed, I swear on my life. GPS on my phone showed me at home all night. Called the cops next morning. Detective was polite but skeptical. People sleepwalk, sir, or dissociate. We've had 5 reports like this from your company already. 5? Mark hadn't shown up for work. Sarah was AWOL. The guy from IT, pale as a ghost, whispering about the envelopes before he bolted. Cops pulled my financials. Every cent rerouted to untraceable crypto wallets, then vanished overseas. That night, I burned the last bill in my sink. Smelled wrong, like sulfur under the ink. But the dream started anyway. Me stumbling through dark streets, hands not my own, signing those receipts. Shaky fingers forcing the pen. And in the mirror of every dream storefront, a face, mine, but older. Gaunt, eyes hollow, dated a year from now. Banks fighting it, but the money's gone. Company's silent. HR claims no donor. Envelopes are multiplying in desk drawers, crisp bills peeking out. I see co-workers eyeing them, tempted. Don't spend it. Whatever sent those bills, it's collecting from the future, and it's coming for the rest. I've lived on Elmwood Lane for 12 years now. It's one of those quiet suburban streets where everyone knows everyone else's business but pretends not to. The houses are close together, porches practically touching. And in December, the whole block turns into a competition of who can string the most lights without shorting out the grid. Across the street, at number 47, lived Mrs. Harlan, Eleanor Harlan. 87 years old, widowed since before I moved in, tiny and bird-like, with a voice like dry leaves. Every Christmas, she put up the exact same display, plain white icicle lights along the gutter and eaves. No colored bulbs, no inflatables, no reindeer on the lawn. Just those steady white drips of light that made her little brick house look like it was etched in frost. She said colored lights gave her migraines. We all respected that. It was her tradition, and in a funny way, it became ours too. When Mrs. Harlan's lights went up, we knew the season had really started. She passed last January. Peacefully, they said. Found her in her recliner with the TV on, a cup of tea gone cold on the table beside her. The house sold quickly to some investor who never moved in. It's sat empty ever since. Curtains drawn, mailbox overflowing, lawn gone to seed. The icicle lights stayed up all year, faded and tangled because no one bothered to take them down. This December, on the first really cold night, I noticed they were on again. I was closing my curtains around midnight when I saw it. A soft white glow from across the street. The icicles were lit, every bulb working, hanging perfectly straight like someone had spent hours fixing them. I stood there for a minute, coffee going cold in my hand, trying to make sense of it. Kids, I thought. Some teenagers messing around, flipping a breaker for a prank. I almost went over to check, but it was late and I had an early meeting. I told myself I'd mention it to the realtor in the morning. The next night, they were still on, and the night after that. By the fourth night, I couldn't sleep. The glow filtered through my blinds and painted stripes across my bedroom ceiling. I got up, went to the window, and stared. That's when I noticed the pattern. The lights weren't steady anymore. They were blinking, not randomly, deliberately. 3 short flashes, 3 long, 3 short again. Pause, repeat, over and over like a heartbeat made of electricity. I know Morse code. I learned it when I was 12, obsessed with spy novels and ham radios. I hadn't thought about it in decades, but muscle memory kicked in. I grabbed my phone, opened a notes app, and started writing it down. SOS, 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. The universal distress call. My felt the hair rise on my arms. It had to be a coincidence, a faulty timer, some glitch in the wiring. But the pattern was perfect. No variation. Every cycle exactly the same. I watched until 4 a.m. when the lights suddenly went dark. Not faded, snapped off, like someone flipped a switch. The next morning, I called the police non-emergency line, told the dispatcher about the lights, the blinking, the empty house. She sounded bored, promised to send an officer by. One came that afternoon, a young guy who looked barely old enough to shave. He knocked on Mrs. Harlan's door, walked the perimeter, checked the electric meter, came back and told me the place was secure. Power was off at the main, and the lights were probably on some battery backup timer the old owner set years ago. Old folks do weird stuff, he said, and left. That night, the lights came on again at exactly 1 a.m. Same pattern. SOS. Over and over until 3:30, then nothing. I started leaving my curtains open. I told myself it was so I could keep an eye on the house, but really, I couldn't look away. On the 7th night, I set up my phone to record video through the window. I watched the footage the next morning, frame by frame. Nothing moved over there. No shadows, no figures, no cars on the street. Just the lights blinking their silent plea into the dark. I tried the realtor, got voicemail, left a message that probably sounded insane. On the 10th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled on boots and a coat over my pajamas, grabbed a flashlight, and crossed the street. The air was sharp enough to burn my lungs. Mrs. Harlan's walkway hadn't been shoveled since last winter. Snow came up to my shins. The front door was locked, windows dark and intact. I went around back. The back door was ajar. Just an inch, but definitely not latched. Snow had drifted against it, undisturbed. I pushed it open with my shoulder. The house smelled like old paper and lavender, exactly how I remembered it from the one time Mrs. Harlan invited the neighbors in for cookies years ago. My flashlight beam swept across the kitchen. Dust on the counters, calendar still open to January 2025, a single teacup in the sink. I found the basement door in the hallway. It was closed, but when I touched the knob, it was ice cold. I opened it. The string of Christmas lights ran down the stairs, plugged into an extension cord that snaked into the darkness below. Someone had carried the display inside. I almost turned back. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, call the police again, wait for daylight. But the thought of that steady SOS blinking night after night pulled me down the steps. The basement was finished. Paneled walls, worn carpet, an old console TV. In the center of the room sat Mrs. Harlan's recliner, the same one she'd died in. It faced away from the stairs. The icicle lights were draped all around it, pinned neatly to the wood paneling, glowing soft white. They blinked in perfect rhythm. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. I took 1 step forward. The recliner creaked. Slowly, it turned. She was there, Mrs. Harlan, still tiny, still bird-like, wearing the same pale blue cardigan she'd had on the day she died. Her skin was gray and papery, eyes sunken but open, fixed on me. She looked exactly as she had in the funeral home, except she was sitting upright now, hands folded neatly in her lap. The lights kept blinking behind her. She opened her mouth. No sound came out at first, just a dry click, like leaves again. Then, so softly I barely heard it. Cold down here. I backed up until I hit the stairs. My flashlight shook, sending wild shadows across the walls. The lights blinked faster now. Urgent. I ran. Up the stairs, through the kitchen, out the back door into the snow. Didn't stop until I was inside my own house, with every lock turned and every light on. The police came again the next day. 2 officers this time, after I refused to calm down on the phone. They found the basement exactly as I described it. Recliner, lights, extension cord, running to a small solar battery pack someone had set up on the windowsill. But no body, no sign anyone had been there in months. Dust undisturbed except for my footprints. They took the lights down, cut the cord, told me firmly that the house was empty and I needed sleep. That night, Christmas Eve, the street was dark. No glow from number 47. I sat by my window anyway, waiting. At 3 a.m. exactly, my own outdoor lights, the ones I'd put up for the first time in years, began to blink. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. I haven't turned them off since. I don't dare.